Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope you enjoyed Easter time, and yeah, I think some more people will join us later on. It's academic 1 minute. Usually, in physical classes, we had academic like quarter of hour, 15 minutes, but in Zoom sessions we have just 1 minute for late arrivals. Today's program will be that I'm going to finish at the beginning. I'm going to finish my previous lecture because I skipped or I just rushed over the topic modeling, which is interesting method. So I will start with topic modeling. I finish the lecture. Next, there will be space for homework, and I will ask students who submitted homework to shortly, briefly introduce their results or their method, what technique they used and what result they got. And after this homework intermezzo, I'm going to continue with other analysis on the same corpus of migrant stories, and next I will move to my own research on activist communication, and that and there will be space. I hope I will manage time better than the last time, and there will be space also for questions and answers. So this is a program for today, and I share my screen. Yes. Okay, this is the last slide, or the first slide that I went really quickly through it, and this is topic modeling. In the last lecture, yes, and please, if you have any question during my presentation, just ask, and don't wait for silence. Ask, and I will stop, and I will try to explain or tell more details about techniques and what I'm talking about. In the last lecture, I spoke about 3 techniques of analyzing migrant stories, about frequencies of words, which was the simplest one, like unidimensional, about the bigrams that are like by 2 dimensions or more complex, and the third analysis is topic modeling, which is far more complex than frequencies and bigrams. And how topic modeling works. There is a picture from one of, it's also in your suggested literature or even obligatory literature. And the method works that first it calculates topics within the corpus, within the whole, for example, in our stories, migrant stories, within the whole, all migrant stories. It calculates words that co-occur frequently together. So if there is, in this example, if there is gene, there is somewhere around also term DNA, also genetic. If there is word life, there is also evolved organism. So it computes words that co-occur in the whole corpus and that occur together somehow in the text. And next, it looks in the individual documents and identify how in these documents, this is on the right, how individual documents are saturated with the topics previously identified. In this, for example, in this document, it's a research paper, you can see that there is two instances of like the pink topic, life above organism, because there are words organism, survive, life, organisms. And there are more instances of the yellow topic, genes, genetic, genome, sequence, genome. There is no instance, no word for the green topic, and there are some words for the blue topic. So it is illustratory, it's not just illustration, not real calculation. And what we can do is this. First, we can determine topics in our corpus, but what is more interesting is to calculate, for example, how or estimate how topics evolve, or how have changed during time. What topics were in biology in the 1980s, in 2000, and in 2020. So topic modeling, we can estimate the change that has happened in topics in corpus. If I summarize it, topic modeling is computing some macro patterns of words that are called topics. It's not topics in the sense as we read some article and we say this is about that. It's really calculation, automatic calculation. What is important then in our analysis, and also we saw it in this research paper, that a single document can contain, and usually contains, more than one topic. And also there is a caution, then this estimation or modeling, topic modeling, is probabilistic estimation. It's not something that you can say it is there. It's modeling. It's a model. Therefore, it can generate valid results, but also there could be artifacts, and it's up to analysts to do interpretation that reflects some context of possibilities, not only relying on what came out from the computer. And in our corpus of migrant stories, I did analysis for two topics, and in R, and we can see that the first topic has specific words like country, field, culture, world, language, friends, migrants, university experience, while the second topic, the blue-green, has family, children, left school, IOM, it's International Organization for Migration, money, started, decided, Syria, Libya. This is result. There are two topics. We are not interested in determining which particular narratives contain which topic. It will be in the next step when we analyze two categories, male and females. But at this level, we are just trying to figuring out what these two topics are about, and my interpretation is that topic one reflects the general expression of or experience of migrants moving from one country to another. They encounter different culture in the new country. They have to learn language because they don't understand language. And they have some feelings associated to good feelings or bad feelings associated with this change. For me, I propose that topic 1 is general migrants' experience, and the topic 2 is a particular topic, I would say, that that concerns war migrants, or like almost war migrants, or forced migrants. The reason is for thinking that this topic is particular because there are words Syria and Libya, and Syria is a country of civil war, and Libya is country like transition country for African migrants who are migrating because of their war conditions or quasi-war conditions in their countries. And so that I think that this theme is theme or refugees or war migrants or forced migrants that fled from their homes and seek asylum elsewhere. And often in the corpus, these are migrants of that comes from Syria or that going through Libya. This is like the first step to interpret topics, and in the next step we will look at gendered categories and look if female migrants in female migrant stories, these two topics, what are proportions, as I showed you in the scientific paper, that topics can be loaded differently for each document. In this case, we see how these two topics are loaded or are present in female migrants' stories, and we can see that the war migrant topic, or how I call it, war migrant topic, is dominant, while because we have the family, children, school, job living, IOM decided to leave, be left, while the second topic, the general topic, or general migrant experience with country, feel, culture, friends, language, is less prominent. Of course, these topics are not exactly as the first two ones, because we have also country in the first topic and family strong in the second topic, but they reflect these two like big topics. And what can be interpretation? I propose two alternative interpretation for it. First is that there is more war than non-war female migrants in the sample, because women are less often voluntary migrants, as like men like leave country or go search for job, or are like easier to go abroad to become a migrant. So for women it's more difficult. So they live in situations they are forced to leave their country, especially in the corpus of these migrants narrative. So that's why the structure of topics resemble, or there is the dominant this warlike migrant topic. The second interpretation, possible interpretation or hypothesis that would have to be researched more in qualitative type of analysis to read these narratives, is that migration is more challenging for women than for men. That they and therefore they express their experience in similar terms as general war-like migrants. So this could be the second interpretation. And of course, these are hypotheses. We cannot prove it from just topic modeling, but topic modeling provided us with like inspiration for formulating these hypotheses, and we can explore it more. Like we can test it. We can devise like confirmatory analysis and to test it. Or we can, what I would do is to try to read these women stories, or to search for keyword in context, and to explore more in directions of these two interpretations. And just for comparison, there is a situation for male migrants, and they have like mixed topic. There is you can see that there is Syria in one topic, Libya in second topic. There are language, culture, which is typical for this like general experience, migrant experience in one, but there is IOM picture for the second. So it's it's not as clear as in for or I could not generate hypothesis for male migrants topic analysis. Well, this is for topic modeling and how it can generate hypothesis. It is used, I think, or I guess more frequently or more often to trace change in discourse, in like change in time, how media, for example, how some topics changed in media during some time. For example, it could be observed on vaccination or in coronavirus in my media. If media referred about these pandemics issues, is the same set of models, topics, or if topics have changed during these 2 years, and it's less use in the for the research as I did to look for differences in genders, or it could be used for homecomers and migrants, etc. So it was, I would say, rather non-standard use of topic modeling, but I think it's enough illustration for how it works. That you first determine topics, and next you look how topics are loaded in particular groups or particular type of texts. And this was your homework. And now I'm going to stop sharing and ask volunteers for presenting their own homework. For example, Lisa had. Do we have Lisa here? No, I don't see Lisa, but I see Natalia. Please.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so it is very superficial, I think, still, because it's way easier to do something with an actual research question. So I understand it was still exploratory research, but it was kind of difficult to look at the graphs sometimes and like to wrap your head around it. But I think, let me just try to, I have the PDF that I sent you. Yeah, so I think what I found interesting, at least among all of this, is the intracontinental migration. So you can see the graph of all of the frequencies of those words. And like my take on this was basically that, let me what I actually wrote, that you can see that the first part, that would be intracontinental. No, wait. So the first one is inter and the second is intra. So the second one, the intracontinental migrants, they focus on family and home more in comparison to intercontinental. And so intercontinental may use words like people and country and years more often than the intracontinental. And again, my tentative interpretation of that was that, exactly as you were talking about refugees just right now, I was thinking that intracontinental can be exactly described, like it is more likely to be forced migration, for example, like people fleeing the war or other circumstances. And that's why intercontinental may focus on family and home. So like, again, fleeing home, protecting the family, while intercontinental, I think that they're more likely to be voluntary migration. So perhaps, again, people looking just searching better life in search of work and so on. And that's why it also makes sense that we have this years comparison. And for me, it also makes sense. It's kind of a little bit self-explanatory that, well, intercontinental can be a little bit more costly and more resource heavy. So to move someplace would be, again, more expensive and harder. That's why usually people don't come back that easily. And that's why you have the years. So I stayed somewhere for X years, so the years would like figure much more frequently than when it's intracontinental. So maybe it's like migration for a short period of time, or people just don't care about the years because they have more important things to worry about, exactly like home and family. And I think the last thing that I wanted to point out is basically also something that is quite obvious, but I wanted to check. So I paid attention to language in those narratives, the inter and intra. And what I found, again, I proved my own hypothesis in my head, that indeed the intercontinental migrants use language way more often than intracontinental. I mean, also for obvious reasons. So linguistic diversity can be seen right here. So when you move to a different continent, you're more likely to have a different language. And that's why when we look at the collocations, very often we can see those like bigrams, if I'm correct in this. So we have like language barriers, language differences, language classes, language courses, language spoken. And so it's used way more often than the intra-continental. So yes, that's the most interesting that I can give you.
Yes, perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much for the presentation. From my knowledge of the corpus, I can say that intercontinental, that the significant part of intercontinental migrants are Syrians fleeing from Syria to Europe or to Greece, and also the sub-Saharan migrants going through Libya to Italy and to Europe. So we have these two, I would say, war migrants or war-like migrants going from one continent to another continent. This is also like important to know for interpretation. Yes, and I see Ivan here. Please, Ivan, can you share your homework, because you did kind of network analysis?
Yeah. Hello, and I believe I'm supposed to share my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, nice. So let me just, please tell me, can you see it?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, so I've made a quite small analysis and used this Voyon tool to kind of see the word networks. Yeah, exactly. And my first hypothesis was that, well, from quite maybe 2 years ago, I've heard from some quite essentialistic source that narrative of families and living their families and narrative of home is more like abundant in the women's stories than men's stories, and I wanted to check that, and also I wanted to check which narratives are like intersecting it, and I was quite surprised because as we can see here in those stories at least, although the document with women's stories was slightly only slightly shorter than with men's stories, we can see that word family appears there almost twice the amount of the family word is lower than in men's in men's corpus. And what else they have? So yeah, interesting connection between I also wanted to check the connection between family and war, and maybe there are some connections between through some words. And as we can see in men's I don't know, can you see my cursor, but I'll try to show you. In the men's stories we have the word broke that connects the family and war, so I believe men are commonly more common to talk about how war broke their family. And we can see that war still has a connotation with broke in women's corpus, but there is no significant or any link between family and broke. So yeah. And what else is interesting? And the men have a strong connection between family and left, and I believe it is due to that there is a lot. My interpretation is that it's really common to see. It's really common to see a man who is migrating to. Work migration mostly, I believe, and who are leaving their families behind to then for example, send money for them. So yeah, the family living narrative is stronger there, and yeah, we can see that men and women are more or less having the same connections and the same words in one network. So we can say that more or less the migration affects their stories similarly about families and war.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I subscribe, or I have the same impression from data that migration is not in their stories. Of course, in their stories, what men and women express in the corpus, that there is not a strong difference between them, and it's more, I think, the factor that impacts more it is if it's war migration or not. This is important, not as much who, if it's men or women, but if it's a forced migration or just voluntary migration. This is the more important factor in which influence the story itself. So thank you for it, and we will see in the next lecture. We will deal also with migrant stories, and we will see also some differences. So I'm going to start my presentation again. And yeah, this is the second part of my lectures, and it will be a move from topic modeling to mapping discursive areas. You see that you have seen that topic modeling is something that can reveal topics in documents or in text in corpus, but we are not always interested in semantic clustering, in finding some themes or topics. Sometimes we would like to know discursive structure in general. So we don't have any assumption that there are topics. We want to know how words are organized in the corpus, independently of any topics. So the second feature of topic modeling is, and it's, for example, important for me, that calculation of topics is very complicated. And if you look to some papers about topic modeling, about Dirichlet allocation analysis, latent semantic analysis, it's there are just formulas that for me are something that I cannot understand at all. So I have to believe that it calculates well. I cannot check it by any way. So this is the second feature of topic modeling. And the third, what is not comfortable for me, that the result of topic modeling are discrete topics. Rather, it looks for discrete entities, topics, for discontinuities, not continuities. And I think that in text there are more often continuities than discontinuities. Continuities in topic structure, in discursive structures, any textual macrostructures than discontinuities. So it hides one important characteristic of text data, that it highlights discontinuities, highlight discrete entities as topics, and it covers or it hides continuities. And that's why I'm going to talk about mapping rather than topic modeling. And it is good, it is useful for analysis when we are, for research, when we are not interested in distinguishing the discrete topics, but when we want to see like the discursive structure of our data from bird view or from above, not looking for or without any assumption of topics. In migrant narratives, we can see even that we know topics that are present in their stories. It's enough to read 1, 2, 3 stories, and we see that it's about leaving the home country, next traveling or staying in some refugee camps. It's about arrival to the host country and adaptation there, integration or return to the home country. These are topics of these stories. They talk about exactly the thing. They are not, they talk, of course, differently about these topics, but these are the main topics. And we would like, sometimes we would like to know more about narratives, about the corpus, than to extract topics. And that's why I did analysis of frequent words co-occurrences. That is, it's not so much different from topic modeling. And I would say it's a halfway of topic modeling, because topic modeling use also frequent word co-occurrences analysis to extract topics, but it goes further and further, and it becomes more and more complicated because of the objective. The objective of topic modeling is to provide topics, while analysis of frequent word co-occurrences is to reveal structure, inner structure of textual data or any data. It can be used for botanic analysis of some national park to look for co-occurrences of different plants in some area, which plant grow together and which plant are far from others. And what I did for this lecture, I took the corpus of migrant stories, the same. I cleaned it in the same manner. So I removed paratextuals, like expression words and expression that didn't relate to the stories. I removed stop words like to, the, etc., the grammatical words, and I also divided the corpus into two samples, male and female stories. And the procedure I used was that first I calculated, as in the first analysis, I calculated most frequent words or semantic words, because stop words were eliminated. But what I did differently, now I excluded highly contextual words such as people, time, lot, month, day, don't, I'm. So words that cannot be interpreted alone. Time, it can be time in many contexts. So if I see word time, I cannot just time in my co-occurrence map, I cannot interpret it because the context can be very different. The same is lot. I missed my country a lot, or there was a lot of migrants there, or a lot of anything. So I extracted or I excluded these highly contextual words, and I left only words that I could estimate their meaning. For example, home, university, culture, etc. The second step was that I had to split the corpus into context unit, in which I later calculated co-occurrences, word co-occurrences. I used paragraphs. It means stories, individual stories, as unit of calculation of co-occurrences. Therefore, I calculated how frequently pairs of words co-occur in one story. It was possible to select different context unit, one sentence, or two sentences, or 50 words. But for interpretation, and because I was beginning with this analysis, I opt for one story as a context unit, and I counted, and this is the step 3, I counted co-occurrences of selected words within the story, within each story. And so, for example, university and school co-occurred, I don't know, 30 times in all stories. So in 30 stories, or 30 stories contained both words university and school. And of course, words like home and country was almost in all stories together, because there was no stories that contained country and not contained home. So these were very frequent. And from these numbers of co-occurrences, I calculated standardized metrics of distances. And the calculation is quite simple. It's called the Jakarta similarity coefficient, or its coefficient that just divide number of co-occurrences. It means that the word A and B co-occur together in one story, and it is divided by the whole number of occurrences of the word country and home, A and B, in the corpus, minus the number of co-occurrences. So it's very simple coefficient that range between 0, so no co-occurrences, and 1, it means it co-occurs in all stories. These two words co-occurs in all stories. And when I had this matrix of distances, I computed graph or map, 2-dimensional, using multi-dimensional scaling technique. This is a technique that tries to flatten the multi-dimensional space of co-occurrences into 2-dimensional maps to be able to interpret it, as we will see in the next slide. Here is the software that I used for this analysis. For word frequencies, I used R. And also for multi-dimensional scaling, I used also R. For counting word co-occurrences and calculation distances, I used co-occurrence analysis of software. This is program that I developed together with my dad a couple years ago, like in 2009, because there was no software available for calculating the distances. And it's very simple. You select your text file. This was migrants stories, women migrant stories. You select a dictionary file. This is the most frequent semantic words, the selection of 50 of them. You select a context unit that can be number of words, number of sentences, or number of paragraphs. I opted for one paragraph, one story as a context unit, and you calculate word co-occurrency metrics. You can just verify context unit if there is no artifacts. You can see word frequencies to check if word frequencies are same as in your previous analysis. You can see keyword in context to check in which context keywords co-occur, for also for checking if there is no artifact. And you click on word distances metrics and you download the metrics, and you can use it directly in multi-dimensional scaling in R. So this was how did I? It was very fast. Word frequencies are like several commands in R. This is several clicks. Of course, you have to create the dictionary file, but it's not. It's in text editor. You don't need to have something special. And calculation in R is also easy. It's nothing special. Of course, if you want to do like good analysis for publication, I didn't use R for calculation of multidimensional scaling. I use SPSS because the procedure there is more sophisticated, and I can work with more features and modify the analysis, calculate stress, etc. It was easier for me to do it. But for basic basic multidimensional scaling, it's enough to have our procedure. And the results are these maps of words, and this is the two-dimensional structure of the corpus in terms of word co-currencies. And the aim is to interpret it and to say what there is. And there are some rules of for interpretation. Oh, sorry. And the first rule or guide is that words that are frequent in the corpus, in the documents, occur closer to the center of the graph than less frequent words that occur in the periphery of the graph. The reason is that frequent words occur more frequently, so they have closer distance. If there is home and country, for example, these two words in life and family are present in almost all documents, in all stories. So they in map they are close and they are in the center because they occur frequently. So the distance is short. And it's not because they are specifically related, linked. There is no any specific link between word home and country. That there are some phrases or bigger ones, the home country. But the reason why they are together is because they co-occur in narratives together frequently. And words like Germany, Greece, Libya, Syria, we see the countries, they don't co-occur frequently. They are not frequent words in narratives because they are in narratives only of people, of migrants that comes from Syria or goes through Libya or Greece. That's why they are on the periphery of the graph, because they are not closely linked to other words. This is one rule that we have to start with the center and to go further. And what is in the periphery of graph, it's not really like important finding.
Sorry, may I interrupt you?
Yes, please.
I would like to ask what means that value on the x and y axis. I mean that minus 0.5, I mean dimension 1 and 2, what means that value there?
Thank you. This is the third point. So thank you for this good question. These dimensions has no like substantial meaning. So the graph can be rotated, and this is dimensions are important for the program, for the procedure to create the graph. That they have to they have coordinates, and to make a picture, the words have coordinates, but there is no interpretation for it. That word, for example, Libya has minus I don't know, -7 on dimension 1, or x is I don't know, the horizontal axis. There is no. What we can interpret is that on the left side there is some words, on the right side there are some words, on the upper part there are some words, on the below there are some words, but not related to axis. It could be rotated. Even in the article that I published on the research of activist communication, I removed the axis because they don't help. They are of no use for interpretation.
Yes, I see. So if I understand it well, that means that for human interpretation, it's meaningless, but the machine, I mean the program which is producing this graph, it has some meaning like inside that, let's say, black box, or I'm sorry for this maybe bad usage of words, but I mean if for the usage you have created this graph, it's meaningless, or it's in general meaningless, like it's kind of random, or what's the logic of this?
Yes, I can. Yes, you are right. The program needs dimensions to locate, to make a location in the graph. The location of every word is in like a position on dimension 1 and dimension 2. But for interpretation, for searching discursive areas, there is no use of these dimensions. Yeah, that's
so rather than as units, it's better to perceive it as just simple coordinates, right? That's it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes. And the third rule for interpretation is that the exact position of particular words are not important. So, for example, on the left, that we see Libya, Italy, it makes sense for us, but it's not necessary that these two words collocate together, because the structure was made for the all words together. It means that the program, because the original metrics, there are 50 words, so there are 49 dimensions in the metrics, and the program tried to flatten it into two dimensions. It tried to arrange words that correspond more or less to this 49 dimensional space, and to reflect it in two-dimensional projection. So sometimes there is a victim that to have a good overall structure, it puts some word somewhere to have good calculation. So what was important is to make the whole structure reflected the original data, not to locate words exactly in their position to their like neighbor words. So there is wife and future. It doesn't mean that in the corpus, wife co-occur very frequently with future. So because it calculates future with wife, future with job, future with school, future with born, future with miss, future with education, and it finds the optimal position for future, and also it calculates optimal position for wife, so wife with support, with job, with happy, with business, with Greece, with university, with work. Therefore, we have to look to of words as they are alone here, like wives, individual words, and we have to look for the overall structure. So many words together, not just one word, because I think wife and future, this is artificial. Like they don't co-occur frequently in stories. I think there will be more wife and family, or wife and children, or wife and migrant than wife and future, or wife and happy. But if we look for bigger structures, it's a valid interpretation. But seeing or interpreting just two words together, sometimes it makes sense, mother, father, but university and born, no. So it's this couple is on the first side, it doesn't make sense. So if we interpret it, we have to look what is on the left or on one side, what is on the other side, what is in the upper, down, looking for big structures. And
could I have one additional question? Or
yeah, sure, please.
Yes, I just wanted to ask that when the final location of every single word is a result of some relational calculations. I mean,
Yes.
it depends on a relation with every other word in this graph. I mean, when I have Greece somewhere in the upper left corner, that means that this location is based on relation with every of all those words clustered here.
Exactly. I cannot say it better. This is and it's proceed by steps. So first it makes random distribution, and they try to move with some word on the different position and calculates if it corresponds better to the original metrics than before, and it tries to move every word in some other position and search for better configuration. And when it arrives at the configuration that is not possible to make it better, so if you move any word to some another position, the overall correspondence will lower, not be higher. It stops. So it's exactly, it looks for the best like combination of words with other words.
Yes, thank you very much. That's all.
Yes, thank you for questions. And regarding the interpretation, so first I located this this core. So it means the words that are very frequent and they co-occur frequently. So this is like core. And next, I did segments because, as I said, the words that are in the periphery, they are not as important as words that are closer to core. So that's why I did these concentric segments. So first there is this segment, there are spaces between, so I put the lines to differentiate the segments, and also I found the third segment, and I tried to label it. I tried what links all these words together: mother, father, school, refugee, education, war, Syria, Germany, Greece, food, children, arrive. And my hypothesis is that this is war refugee stories. In war refugee stories, these words co-occur more frequently. That they talk about refugee, about war, mother, father, that the family also, and also it's called Germany, Greece. It's going from Syria through Germany to through Greece to Germany, for example. This is one segment. The second segment, I tentatively label it as Africa-Europe migrant stories because of Italy, Libya, but the journey Europe. So this small cluster. I cannot say that there is a cluster because the analysis should be, or the interpretation should concern bigger space of the graph, but it can give me a hint for labeling it. So for me, this was important. Also, International Organization for Migration that helps these migrants support, return, decide. I had a problem with this small cluster, which I don't know, but I created this big cluster of African. Third would be life change migrant stories. I would call it also like voluntary migrants that goes abroad for study, for like to seek experiences, different experiences, and for learning languages. And they talk about missing their home country and but loving something, and looking in the world and cultural issues, etc. So this is the third segment. therefore, the overall interpretation of discursive areas in the like this is men stories, that there are area of or the war refugee stories, like family war refugee stories. Next, there are stories Africa, Europe, and the rest is life change migrant stories, or people seeking new experiences in migration. And this is proposal, and for female stories there is also core of like frequently occurring words: family, life, migrant, country, home, friend. But I think it's bigger, and there are just two parts. The left part of this core, that is stories of life change migrants. This is also experience, world, culture, language, learn something, city, miss, love. These words together give me impression of voluntary migrants, while on the right side I see stories of fleeing migrants that are not divided in these Libya and Syria, that there is about like family, school difficult, arrived, refugee war, father, mother support community. So this is like people who are forced to migrate, who are not seeking new experiences. And you can see that the structure, the overall structure is different. They are not as segment. There are no three segments. There are just two segments, two kinds of stories. It is similar if you remember the topic analysis for the story, that for women, the stories I said it's all are like warlike, and the second is less pronounced, is the non-warlike stories. And the same is similar here, that we have this is large structure of these fleeing migrants, and the lower or lesser or like smaller segment of life change migrants. And we can look at the different different categories of migrants, not male and female, but near and far migrants. Near migrants are intracontinental, and far migrants are intercontinental. It was in homework of Natalia, the similar analysis, and I did the same with 50 most frequent words, context, universe, story, and I also used the Jakarta coefficient. And if you look to stories of intracontinental, so close migrants, there is this part that is Italy, Libya, journey, Europe, money, support, return. So I would say that it's people trying to get to Europe stories, because the context unit is stories. So the interpretation has to be about stories, and you see stories from Libya to Italy, journey to get to Europe. There is support of international organization on migration. This is one segment, I think quite compact. There is the second segment, the upper one, which is larger, and there are words related to home, family, and education. That's why I mechanically label it as a home, family, education stories, because we see about family, about education, also war. but it could be just word that is on the periphery. So the co-occurrences can be also with these and with these. I'm not sure, but what is clear here is that there is family-related words, parents, father, children, mother, and there are education-related words, education, university, school, and also home as house, and home is somewhere is here. So house is just only, and community also. And the rest is not non-structured well. So I called it migration as a life change stories. I would say this is the rest of stories. There are also these words: language, culture, experience, but also how difficult moved. So there is no specific cluster. So what I would say, there is this cluster to trying to get to Europe, but because it's intracontinental migrants, it's like unsuccessful journeys to Europe, because the migrants from Africa stayed, or they stopped in Libya and they are still in Libya, or they returned home. It is the word return that is in the core, but it's related to this segment. That's why I call it trying to get to Europe stories, because it's not successful getting to Europe stories, because it's intracontinental. It's from the migrants from Africa. They finished in some of African countries. They were returned, and International Organization of Migration cooperates with European countries to get migrants back to Africa. So it can be the stories of these people. And when we move to intercontinental, so far migrant stories, we can, or I try to delimited this segment of refugees: Syria, Greece, Turkey, Germany, Europe, war. So it is about Syrians refugees going through Greece to Europe, especially in Germany, and staying sometimes in Turkey. Problem of civil war. The second cluster is about education, university education, and family, husband, father. English is also, speaking English is also education, language. And the third is the rest, migration as a life change stories. It's general migration stories, no specific. So we can say that we have stories about Syrian refugees in intercontinental. It means going from one continent to another continent. The second is migrants that tell about education and their family. So they migrate because of education or because of family, or their migration is somehow related to or affected the education of their family. And this is the rest of experience or migrant experience stories, non-specific ones. And yes, and what would be my interpretation for it? That both these groups of migrants share family and education and life change migrant stories. In this sense, this is something basic for migration, for global migration, being it intracontinental or intercontinental. There is no significant difference in it, and we can say that this is shared experience of migrants. On the other hand, for every group there is a specific segment of stories. For intracontinental, there is this trying to get to Europe stories, and mostly, or in this segment or in this group, unsuccessful stories of arriving to Europe, or arriving to Europe but being repatriated back to home country or to another country. This is particular experience which we can explore more if we are interested in stories of these people. We see that there are like a bunch of them, and for intercontinental, there are these Syrian war refugees that are like a real big group of stories in the sample on this website. So they narrate different stories from the rest. So we can also say that there are particular group of stories that are different in intercontinental migrants, and these are Syrian stories. So that would be my interpretation. Of course, it depends on the research question, if it is what different migrant stories are, or if we have some more specific. And this was the case of my own research on analysis of activist media communication, when I analyzed 12, or together with two of my colleagues, we analyzed 12 Czech activist organization, or more precisely their websites, and we selected 3 organizations for 4 justice claim-making domains, how we call it, trade unionism. So we selected 3 web pages of websites of trade unions in Czech Republic, 3 feminist organizations, 3 human rights organizations websites, and 3 environmentalist organization websites. And our research question was if there is any discourse or some discursive structure typical for this justice claim making. So our research question was, is there any justice claim making discourse? Is media communication of justice claim making organization structured in a similar way? So we can say that there is regular distribution or allocation of words within this discourse, and we used just 33 most frequent lexical words, and for each domain. And the result is, what we discovered is that there is structure. It's not justice claim making discourse structure, but it's rather activist communication structure. And the structure is that they distinguish, or they talk about 2 different things in their discourse, and they separate these talks. And the first is condition area, and in condition area there are communications or messages or text that verbalize or that refer to existential conditions of subject of this justice claim making. And I will see, for example, in human rights, it's about children that are, or about foreigners, or asylum seekers. These are subjects, and in condition area, in this part of communication, they talk about conditions of these subjects. And there are second area, complementary contention area, and they communicate it in different channels, in different articles, in different media, and they refer to the strategies and how to fight, how to achieve their aims, how to negotiate with opponents, what strategies they use. So if they talk about strategies, they don't talk about situation of subject they protect. And if they talk about the subject, they don't talk about the strategies. And how we discovered, or what was how we proved it, we got the maps, and I'm not sure if you see this rounded area, but this is a trade union discursive space, and the contention area is on the right side, and you see there are no dimensions. So these axes, they are lacking because they don't have any meaning, or meaning like the own meaning. Of course, I can say that the meaning of this axis, the horizontal, is this: it separates contention area from condition. But it's my interpretation. It's not in the axis itself, dimension itself. And we can see on the right side, there is about negotiation, collective agreement, proposal, about leader, organization, member, chairman. So it's about the trade union movement strategies and organization. So they talk about themselves. And on the left side, we see people, interest, state, EU, social working, unemployment, problem, work, right. So it is about condition of workers that are influenced by EU legislature, state legislature, state rules, about politicians that talk about unemployment. So this is like communication about condition of workers. And you can see that there is a clear separation between the contention area when they talk about their own movement strategies and the like more dispersed condition area. And the second is this is the feminist corpus, that we see also this like two clusters. The condition area is about women's conditions, household, children, mother, parents, family, work. It is how to cope with having family and work together, employment, career, research, etc. Student, and this is about like feminist organization and their claim making about feminism, organization, question, change, gender, equality, society. And what is interesting, that gender as a term is the contention area. It's not a condition. It's not a part of condition area, the situation of women, but it's a claim. Gender is a claim. And also there is this interesting cluster of pornography, sexual and violation that is rather apart. This is like ambivalent position in feminist discourse. And let's move to the human rights. There is interesting split between, or interesting, it's obvious, there is split. There are two conditions area. One is concerning foreigners, and it's about migrants and their rights. The problem of getting citizenship or residence permission, etc., asylum, and there are child protection area about care, protection of children, parents, etc. And there is one contention, because they both movements in child protection area, child protection, and movements in protection of foreigners, they share their contention area, the battlefield, in courts, decision proceeding, punishing of these parents or for citizens, execution, police somehow. So we can see that we have one contention area and two conditions area. And the last is just shortly, this is environmental discursive space. And we see only one condition area, which is protection of species, forest, nature, conservation, and two contention area, the local one, municipalities, mining companies within Czech Republic and various bureaus in industry, and international, which is like Greenpeace movement that the battlefield is not local as much as international. So states, country, European development organization, member of organization, etc. So we have two contention area and one condition area. That this is support for our result that there is internal split in discursive space. So we have no topics. This is not analysis of topics. This is analysis of discursive space in general, and we discovered the inner structure. And to conclude, because we have like 7 minutes, and I would like to leave the space for questions. That in the conclusion for the whole 2 lectures together, not only the second one, but for both, that I claimed for the beginning that sociology used text mostly in a way that it coded textual data into categories, and they work with categories. For example, the classical content analysis is calculating or counting words that represent activist or activity, and words that represent passivity, and they calculated which documents or which presidential speeches are active and which are passive. This is a problem of or the coding approach, which has several problems, which I talked in the first lecture. And I would say the recent trend is to go to inductive approach, non-coded quantitative text analysis, and but it must be said that it can be used to explorative analysis of social phenomena, not the confirmative or testing if some speeches are more or less something or not. It's more about exploration and to find a way how to do further research, how to create hypotheses. The second lesson I think we learned here is that we should combine textual data with non-textual data. For example, socio-demographic data, institutional data. In my example of activist discourse that combine the textual data of production on website with some movement organization, and to look for the relationship between organization and their textual production. Or in case of migrants data, migrants stories, look for socio-demographic or behavioral, where they go, and combine this textual data. Because if you dig deep into textual data only, it's difficult to find something that goes further than the text. You are doing just textual analysis, but if you combine it with non-textual data, you can say something about society. And for sociology, it's very important to say something about society. And third point is that the quality of data are more important than sophistication of analytical techniques. If you have high quality data, it means cleaned, you know exactly if it's representative, what is in your data, if you know it. You can do just frequencies and you can find interesting results. You can do even more complex analysis, and you can be sure that what you found is relevant and is valid. But if you have such data as migrant stories from website and you don't know who uploaded it, who checked it, what was the way of selection, and how these data were collected, what is the composition, etc. It's more difficult to formulate any finding, any something result that you can be sure about. So first, I would focus on having high quality data, and next look for analytical techniques. And third, that interpretation in explorative analysis is not obvious. It's easy. You can interpret almost everything because you find always something to say about, but the interpretation that can be trusted is not obvious, and so I prefer to call it as like hypothesis proposal, that my interpretation is proposal for hypothesis that can be tested on for example a representative sample, or doing some confirmatory analysis, not just exploration. That exploration, there are a lot of raw rock, but little gold in it. And but you can find gold by exploration. You cannot find it that you start just digging the hole big enough. You have to explore various places, not just be on one place. So explorative analysis is good, but you should not, or we should not expect some firm interpretation from it. Yeah, that's all from me, and there is a space for questions. If you have any questions regarding anything in these two lectures. Regarding homework, I will evaluate it and make comments and upload it or send it to you by email, my comments on your homework. Well, if there is no questions, I see that some people are leaving. Thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to participate in this course, and I wish you good, interesting next lectures. And yes, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Martin, bye-bye.